Hello. I bet you're wondering what I have on my fingers here. Well, I'll have to show you in a few minutes as you guys start coming into the room, start watching the video. I hope my connection is good, and I this week have some new things, some new devices, so gadgets, if you will. So I do have a microphone. So I hope you guys notice that. I wonder if you detect a little bit of a different sound quality, perhaps. I hope it doesn't sound echoey. So anyway, I'd love to hear what you think about that. So I hope I'm coming through nice and crisp and clear. So please, feedback on the sound would be fabulous, because I got this special microphone just for you all. So, but anyway, so thanks for joining me. And my name is Kara Gott Warner, and I am the editor of Creative Knitting Magazine. And every Wednesday, I hop on here for my weekly edition of The Editor Wants to Know, and I ask you a burning question. So it's always something that I'm curious about, because I know it's going to help the readers of Creative Knitting Magazine. Oh, good. Well, thank you, Dana. I'm glad that I sound better. So this was a good investment, getting this little microphone. So great. Thank you very much for your feedback. And if you are just hopping in and you're joining me and you happen to see this, hi, Marie. Oh, good. Awesome. So you definitely are detecting that the sound is better. This is good. Thank you, T Wilson. Is that how you say your name? T? Thanks. Hey, Linda, how are you? How's it going? So yes, my name is Kara Gott Warner, for all of you jumping in. I never know when to really start with my intro, because I know it takes time to come in to start watching the video. But my name is Kara Gott Warner, and I'm the editor of Creative Knitting. If this is the first time that you are watching this video, and today I am asking you a burning question, as I do every single Wednesday. And when I started, I had these cute little things on my fingers here, and I'm not going to tell you what they are just yet. But a friend of mine, who's actually one of the editors here at Annie's, she's one of the editors, and she gave these to me. So she was thinking of me, and she made them last night. Isn't that cute? Isn't that cute? Hi, Carol. Nice to meet you. Thanks for joining. So yes, I'm going to get ready, and I just wanted to quickly share this video on my podcast website. Facebook page, Power Pearls. I just want to make sure all the peeps over there can also watch and join in. Hey, Amy, your daughter just popped into the room and she loves the rings. Yeah, well, I'll share these in a little bit. Jackie made these. Jackie's an editor here, and she made these lovely, lovely rings. One is a crochet ring. Okay, I'll just talk about them now, because anyway, that's just how it goes, right? Yes. Hey, Kath, how are you? Nice to meet you. So one is a crochet ring, and one is called a cable keeper. This is not a cable ring, but of course you can. This is not a cable on here to have a tapestry needle, but really, if you look at it, you can see there's like a little tiny cable there. And so when you're working on a cable project, you can actually put your cable needle right there on the ring, on the little holder. Isn't that cute? So they're actually little free patterns on Ravelry, and I just thought I might share them. I know normally I don't do that, but they're just little tiny patterns. They're just simple little silly patterns. So I thought, why not? And then you can make them. So Amy, I know that you'd be able to show your daughter. You could do this, right? You could totally do this. So let me find them where they are, and then I'll get on to today's question. But I want to quick share these with you. So let me do that right now. I'll do that right here in the comments for you. So, oh yes, Kath, I can't see your photos. See, this is why I keep the page here on the Facebook page up on my desktop so I can see what's going on, because I can't see the photos on my phone. And of course, that's how I have to actually broadcast. So very nice, Kath. Is that a seed stitch project that you are working on as we talk? So here are these cute little patterns for you. Hope you like them. They're just a fun little thing that we stumbled upon. And you know what? Why not share the love every now and again, you know? So that's what I'm doing for you. So, hey, yeah, Christmas gift inspiration, says Megan. Absolutely. So I better take this off, because I'm gonna like poke myself in the eye or something like that. So anyway, are you guys ready for today's question? The question of the week? Let me, yeah, aren't they, Amy? They're just so adorable. So what is the question? The question is, and it was in the copy of the video, but I'll just go ahead and read it again, and I want you to answer and tell me what you think. When choosing a new knitting project from a knitting magazine, do you use the suggested yarn, or do you usually find a substitute? If you find a substitute, do you find it challenging to find the right yarn? So that's my question for you guys. So usually it's at this time when right after I ask you the question, I grab myself a drink of water. And you know what? These rings inspired me to make some new patterns for my bottle. You know, like a little cozy. And I think I've showed you before my little stitch markers and how I use them so I can keep track of my water intake. I use removable stitch markers. Isn't that cool? So Chris says, rarely, I almost always use a substitute. You do. So do you feel that, let's use creative knitting as an example. So do you find that the yarns are too expensive? Are they hard to find? You know, what are your reasons for substituting? And so Rhonda says, I do for the first time, and if I like the pattern, I may substitute yarn if needles for different sizes. I may substitute needles for different sizes. I'm not sure I understand that. Let's see. If I like the pattern, I may substitute yarn. Okay. And then, anyway, I'm sorry, Rhonda, I didn't understand your question there, or your answer. Let's see. Carol, I usually sub, and sometimes it's difficult to find the right one. And so, Carol, is it difficult because do you not have a yarn shop, in your area? Do you buy online? Megan says mostly substitute, but delighted when I don't have to. Yeah, and I think that's not so odd, because for myself, even the patterns that we feature here in the magazine, I don't necessarily have those yarns in my own stash. So what I do is I just kind of see how I can use what I've got, and be resourceful. So it's more about being resourceful with what I have, because I think I usually can figure out, how to substitute if I don't have that yarn. But you know what? Then there are times when I see that yarn in the photo and it's gorgeous. I gotta have that yarn. Do you ever have those moments too? So I think it goes both ways. Carol says, trying to use up my stash, way too much stash. Yes, because I just kind of said that, right? So I want to be resourceful and use what I've got. Kelly says, I will try to use the correct yarn or the suggested substitute, but sometimes I start with a yarn I have and find a project that will might suit it. Price can be a factor too. Carrie says, I always find a substitute. Sometimes I have some in stash, and other times it's an access issue. I understand that. Live in a rural area, so can't get to a yarn shop often. Sometimes cost is a factor as well. Okay, so Carrie, do you buy online? Do you go to big box stores? Like, where do you usually get your yarn if it's hard to find because you live in a rural area? And actually, you know, where I am, where Annie's is located, we're pretty rural too. And, you know, actually the nearest yarn shop, the local yarn shop, is about an hour away from here. So I find it to be a challenge too, so I can completely relate. Becca says, if the pattern inspires me, I usually use a substitute with my stash or my local yarn shop. If it's the yarn, then I find a pattern that calls for it. Shirley says, I try and use what is called for. If not, I go to my stash. This all makes sense to me. It would be great if, like, you hit on a pattern. Do you guys ever do, like, the happy dance? I'll see a pattern. Hey, I just saw my brother pop in the room. Hey, yay! Okay, so I haven't seen my brother pop in, so this is very exciting. Hi, GT. I'm glad you're here. So anyway, yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought because I got so excited. So yeah, I just totally do the happy dance when I see a pattern that I like, and it's a yarn that I have. And you don't always hit on that. It's kind of a tricky thing because you don't always get it that way. But when we do, it's really exciting, isn't it? It's pretty cool. And Diane says, I try to use the suggested yarn. That's great. Mary says, it depends, color, choice, type of yarn, availability, and trying to remember to check my yarn stash. Megan says, I like to get unusual yarns when I travel to places and substitute in a project I adore. Yes, I love to do the same thing, especially when I go like to craft, to craft shows, and especially yarn related craft shows or consumer shows like a Stitches and that sort of thing. There's always an indie dyer, or I should say more than one, but many indie dyers or indie yarn companies that go to those kinds of shows that I don't normally see. You don't get to see at shows like the National Needle Arts, which is a trade show. So it's really a very unique thing if you can do that. So I can totally understand that. And from time to time in Creative Knitting, I have featured indie yarn companies. So, you know, I might start doing that again because I think it's time. Anne Marie says, if using an American pattern, I will substitute due to availability and cost here in the UK. Also, if the yarn is more than 25% wool, can't wear that. Oh, really? So I'm guessing that you have, Anne Marie, a wool allergy, which is not so uncommon. Marie says, 99% of the time I don't, because in Mexico, while I subscribe to American magazines, I either can't find, the suggested yarns, or if I find them, they are incredibly expensive down here, except if they use Omega yarns made in Sam's Club, Mexico. It is always fun to substitute for me. Wow, so you can get Omega in Sam's Club? That's so wild. But yeah, so Omega, I'm pretty sure they are they, because I don't use them that often. Omega is, I thought they were from Spain, but maybe I'm wrong. Dana says, I am usually looking for a pattern to go with the yarn I already have. T says, I find it very hard to find brands that are in magazines. I only have a Michaels near, but not big on a selection. Yeah, that's really very true. Because there are certain yarns that you can only get in the local yarn shop. You know, the boutique yarns like Barocco, Plymouth. Plymouth is a good price, and it's the kind of yarn that you can get in a yarn shop. And so it's like, definitely like a step or so above what you get in a yarn shop. In a Michaels, but the price is really good if you can get it at Plymouth at your local shop. Judy, depends on the cost of the suggested yarn and who I'm making it for. For a child, it must be washable and hold up to wear and tear. This is true. So Chris says, yes, sometimes the pictured yarn is too gorgeous to pass up. Yeah, and so that's what it comes down to. Just so you guys know where I stand when it comes to the magazine and the kinds of yarn that I feature. So it's about, well, we want this to be a page-popping design, right? Or a page-popping design, so that when you see it in a photograph, it makes you want to make it, because you can't touch it. So it's got to be just that, close enough to that. So if you had the experience of going to a yarn shop and touching the yarn and actually seeing a sample in person, it's a different story, right? And that's an amazing experience. But you can't get that in a magazine. And sometimes you guys that live in rural areas, you can't get that anywhere but from a magazine, or if you go into a store like a Michael's, and the selection isn't always the best, and it's not what you're going to get in the magazine. However, there are times when you'll see that I will use yarns that you can find at the big box stores, like some Premier and some Lion Brand, and I do that from time to time because I realize that that's definitely something that you would like to see, or that you would like to be able to purchase in your local area. So that's why I try to be as broad as I can when it comes to the yarns that we showcase in the magazine. So Carrie says, some online, but when I get to a yarn store, I add to stash. Small yarn store, 70 miles away. Next is 180 miles. Closest chain store is 40. Wow. So yeah, those are your challenges. So again, going back to, I'm going to try to do the best I can. So number one, it looks amazing on the page. And number two, you can get it locally. But nowadays with what you can do online, you can get yarn so fast. Like, for example, Annie's, and I didn't even get to that yet because I was going to talk to you guys about how, if you don't know this already, Annie's is one of the largest craft publishers out there. And so, of course, they sell yarn. And many of the yarns that you guys see in Creative Knitting have a little button. Have you ever seen that button that says, buy this yarn now? And what that means is, well, if you're paging through the print edition, then you can go to Annie's because it's got the A, and you can go to Annie's and it has anniesyarnshop.com on the button. But the coolest part to that, this is why I kind of came up with this idea, was if you have the digital version of the magazine, all you need to do is click that button and it's going to take you right to Annie's Yarn Shop so you can get that yarn. So most of the yarns that you see in the magazine, you can get on Annie's. And if you don't see that particular yarn, I guarantee that you will find a substitute. And you're going to find a substitute that really fits in your price range. So there's nothing holding you back. And to be honest, I do most of my purchases online for yarn, even though, because, like you were saying, Carrie, the nearest yarn shop for me is not 70 miles away. So it's more like 40-ish for my nearest local yarn shop, like a higher end yarn shop. So, but it's still an intentional drive in the car, right? It's still, I'm going to the yarn shop. It's not like, today I'm just going to go out and see what I find, because you're in town, there's one in town. So it's not like that. But yeah, buying online really helps me a lot. And Annie's is a great resource, you guys. So I really hope you'll check it out. Let's see. Marie says, wish American companies would consider Mexico as a market. Omega is not far from my home. Wow. Okay, right. So I'm so sorry because I should know that because I'm like, wait a minute. Omega is in Mexico, and we use Omega in the crochet magazines. I mean, quite extensively, and we consider them a great partner for the crochet market, but not so heavily in knit. There's not a lot of knitters want to use because that's considered more of the crochet floss. But you guys tell me, do you like, I'm guessing Marie likes to work with Omega, and I think Omega is beautiful. Actually, I think for the first time in recent history, I used Omega. It's an issue that's not out yet, but I used Omega. Oh my goodness, I can't think of the name, but it's a beautiful, very shimmery yarn. It's like a fingering weight. And it's going to be featured in a beautiful, like, meshy cardigan. So it's coming soon. So yes, I have used Omega in the magazine, and you'll see it very soon. Hi, Troy. I was wondering where you were. So yes, I can't wait until you're in Indiana. But Marie, based on, I know what you told me where you're going to be close enough to places more, probably closer to Indianapolis. And so there's some great shops. There's some great shops in Indianapolis. So anyway, I'll hook you up. Chris says, I'm lucky. I have 2 Michaels, a Hobby Lobby, and a Joann's, all within 10 miles. Oh, wow. I wish magazines featured more big name yarns. Well, that, you know, like I said earlier, I do a percentage of that. And I think, you know, it's more about the balance and the types of yarns that we feel like the overarching customer is looking for. And also some, you know, some of the advertisers that are in the magazine. You know, we're honoring the advertisers. But you'll see a lot of Plymouth, and Plymouth is found, like I said earlier, they're found in the LYS, the local yarn shop, but the yarns are very economically priced, and they are definitely competitive with what you'll find in Michaels, for sure. So it's definitely a higher quality than what you get at Michaels too. But yeah, so Chris, so what you find in a place like Michaels, Hobby Lobby, and Joann, you'll find Premier, you'll find Lion Brand, of course. You'll find Karen, you'll find Spinrite, Bernat, all those kinds of yarns. And some of those, you know, Peyton's is another one. So those I do feature. And maybe, you know, maybe I should experiment and do a little bit more. Do you guys think I should? I mean, this is the conversation that we're having. So I think maybe it's time to just experiment, to touch more with that. And we'll see how it goes. Because it doesn't mean that it means that if I do more on that end of the spectrum, I'm just trying to give you some balance. So there's a little bit for everyone, you know? So let's see, Mary Lou, I rarely use the suggested yarn. I usually use yarn that I already have. Plus, the suggested yarns are often out of my price range. Rosaria, I need to feel and see it. Yes, and that's true. So Rosaria, are you close to a shop that you can do that with the yarns? Just curious. Nola, since most of my knitting is for others, my yarn must be washable. It's good to know. Dana, we have a few LYS, but I rarely find what I want for a specific project. Order lots online, and I keep a journal of patterns I want to make and the yarns when I have enough. I will order online. I will order online and keep a journal of patterns I want to make and the yarns. And when I have enough, I will order online to get free shipping. That's why the stash is overwhelming. Wow. Speaking of journals, not to get sidetracked here, but I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that in a future video, because I think journals are really a good idea to just chat about. Journals and how we keep track of the yarns we want to use, the projects we're making. So we'll do that. We'll do that. Awesome that Creative Knitting is featuring Omega Yarns, says Marie. I'm trying. Love shopping at LYS, not online. And Troy says, love Peyton's Rich Autumn colors. They do, right? Peyton's does have a beautiful palette, and they do have a lot of, you know, a range of different fibers to choose from. So this is a great conversation because it's really making me think about things that I don't necessarily think about when I'm in like the nitty gritty of playing a new issue, and just being able to talk to you guys to get a feel for what it is that you want to see in the magazine is extremely helpful, which is why I do these videos every single Wednesday. So I'm really happy and grateful that you guys are willing to share this feedback. Marie says, I love Noro yarns. Don't we all? I know. I was going to say, I have some beautiful Noro yarns in the corner here, but I'm sort of connected today with my little microphone. But I do have a very long cord, so I could go and show you some of the yarns that I have. Maybe we have to like do a Noro yarn retrospective one of these days. Wouldn't that be fun? So Justine says, I try to use something similar from LYS if the yarn used in pattern isn't available. But I have found usually the color is what attracts me, so I try to stay within same color. I think color can be really important, and I have to say that there are those times that, you know, looking back in retrospect, as they say, you know, hindsight is 20/20, when I see the magazine in my hands, as opposed to when I'm looking at it during the reviews and on PDFs and that sort of thing. There's something really special about seeing it in my hands, and then I say, that would have been great in this color or that color. But we can say that forever, right? You know, but I try really hard, and during that process, you know, when I'm when I am selecting colors at we call it the swatch review, which I've invited you all to on occasion. You've attended a few of those with me, and selecting colors and coming up with color stories is so important, because what's going through my head is, how is this going to look? Number one, in the story together, like as a group, and number two, and probably more importantly, how is this going to look in the photograph on the model? Because I personally prefer muted tones, earth tones, and that sort of thing, and that's beautiful for everyday wearing. And if you have the color story, if I do this, I create the color story with that in mind and set the tone. Let's say if it's natural fibers, then going with an extreme neutral palette can work. But sometimes it doesn't work, and those images don't pop, if you will. So Justine says, funny, with knit-alongs I choose my color so carefully, and then I like everyone else's colors better. We always want what we can't have, isn't that true? Not that we can't have that, but yeah, it's so true. It's human nature. The grass is always greener, right, Justine? I think that's there's something to be said about that. So, but this was great. So we're nearing the close to 20 minutes is usually almost 30 minutes, a 25-minute mark. I like to keep this too. And so this has been a great conversation, and this opens the door to some other exciting things, other yarns that I want to start experimenting with in the magazine, and also, things that we can talk about later, like using a journal or taking a collection of yarn and let's do a show and tell. And something that I did a while ago on the blog, I did like a study of seed stitch. So I'm thinking about, and I'm kind of priming you for a future video, of doing like a swatch retrospective of, let's say we have a yarn that's in creative knitting. I did this before. I did a seed stitch one, actually. But let's say we're doing one stitch, and how that stitch works in this yarn, in this yarn, in this yarn, in this yarn, and just like a little show and tell. What do you guys think about that? I want to know right now what you think about that. Kelly says, thank you. These conversations are so important for our creative communities. I agree, and that's why I'm doing it, because I decided, Kelly, that I wanted to create something that I wanted. And so this is something that I really love and I really crave myself, and I partake in these types of conversations and watch videos of other makers and creators and knitters. So I'm so excited that you love it. So Marie says that sounds exciting. About the swatch retrospective is what I'm kind of calling it right now, a stitch retrospective. There you go. Becca says that would be helpful. Chris says that would be great. T says that would be very cool. Awesome. So we're going to do a stitch retrospective. So that's maybe next week. What do you think? Think I can get them ready by next week? I always have very high expectations of myself, but I will do what I can. How's that? If it's not next week, it's going to come up soon, because we were talking about doing tutorials and different things, and if there are stitch patterns that trip you up in the magazine, reach out to me. Reach out to me, please. You can get in touch. And here's the email. So send me an email, will you? At editor@creativeknittingmagazine.com. And if you're looking at let's say the autumn issue, or maybe a past issue, maybe it's something from the spring issue, something from the summer issue, and there's a stitch pattern, there's something that trips you up in a particular pattern, then get in touch with me and write me and let me know. And maybe that'll be perfect for a demo that I could do. And just, to see if it's if it's broad enough that something, I think everyone would benefit from. So let me know. Contact me. Reach out. Kelly says, I'm working on the same in my area. Can't get enough of it. Love the swatch idea. Cool. Dana, thank you so much for these little live videos. You're welcome, Dana. So with that, I'm signing off, you guys. Thank you so very much for joining me today, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.